There's another one.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Effortless. I am your host, Pickle, and with me is my guest, Spigot.
I didn't expect that. That was really funny. That was like the most random thing ever.
How are you doing, Spigot? I mean, Spiegel.
I'm
sorry.
doing good. I'm doing good, Pickle. I'm
Dr. Spiegel.
So basically,
Mr. Piddle.
Okay, so here's the story. So I'm working the other day, and some guy comes into the store, and he wants a copy of NBA 2K16, and he didn't pre-order it because he's a smart guy. So that's only partially sarcasm. And he wants NBA 2K16. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't have the early tip-off edition that you got for pre-ordering it. And he's like, well, what's the early tip-off edition? I'm like, oh, it just comes with a little extra content. Like, that's the one he wanted. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, he starts like having this like growling hissy fit, like a cat who's like having a seizure, just like, and it's like the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. So
why was he having a hissy fit?
I don't know.
Exactly?
He really wanted the early tip-off edition. And the weird thing is, like, this is a story that you'd think I was exaggerating, but I'm not, like, at all. This is exactly what happened.
I can just see. I'm going to do that next time I go to GameStop just to freak out the people there. Like, I'll just walk in and start, like, browsing and looking at games and just...
They won't come up and talk to you then. I'll guarantee you that. One other thing is, like...
And then I'll awkwardly pick up my game or pick up a game and walk up to the front and just, like, stand there and just stare at the case for, like, 20 minutes, like, right at the front of the line.
So oftentimes I will say that Madden customers are animals because they're really rude and just very mean
Dude,
people.
bro.
But NBA customers are apparently like literally actual animals because they become animals when they don't have the early tip-off edition. Anyway, so
speaking of the NBA 2K16 version, are you going to get it, Spiegel?
No, because I hear that it's garbage. And of course IGN's review is like, well, you know, it's a historic. I think the quote is, it's a historic hoop sim, but you can never believe IGN anymore. I usually like their reviewers, but when you look at a AAA game on that website, you just can't believe anything. Like, they gave Evolve a 9 out of 10. Would you look at Evolve right now, 8 months after release, and say that it's a 9 out of 10?
I didn't even look at it that way when it came out.
The problem with Evolve, and I was super excited for it, is that just nobody played it. Like, nobody was interested in it because it's like, oh, you have to play online? Oh, and it's extremely limited. So, yeah, under the right circumstances, Evolve might be a 9 out of 10, but it's just... Anyway,
are you aware that they are turning Evolve into a franchise? Supposedly,
I did not know that. That's surprising. I didn't think it sold well enough.
I don't even know what direction they're going to take it in.
So anyway,
but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So we already started off the show going in multiple different directions.
Speaking of 2Ks, what did we just do this morning, Spiegel?
This is great. We actually impulse bought ESPN NFL 2K5, which is heralded as one of the greatest football games ever made. We bought it together on this great new website that we found called jjgames.com. We are not sponsored by them, but they have free shipping and the games are super cheap. So
yes, I was like blown away by the price. I still don't even understand it.
I was pissed because we both saw this game on there for like $5.18 plus free shipping, and we were both like, oh, I'm going to buy it ahead of you, and I thought I had the upper hand, and then somehow when I went to check out, the game had been purchased by Piddle over there. So
yes,
you ruined my morning.
You had to pay 37 cents.
I had to pay
more.
37 cents more. Pissed me off. So I'm in a bad mood.
That 37 cents is gonna ruin your day.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, I need to feed my family too.
So yeah, if you weren't aware, listeners, NFL 2K5 is considered the best football game of all time, American football game.
Now, we talked football at the end of last week's show.
So we'll keep it brief.
I don't think anybody actually listened to it, because I didn't get any complaints. So I think everyone just shut it off, like I said. But there was some bonus cat footage if you stayed tuned. So
it's interesting that, like, part of the reason I want this game is because we've talked about this before, but I most recently got a new football game last year, I believe. I got Madden 25 for the PlayStation 3, and it was just so bad. It was awful. It was an awful experience. Like, the menus took forever to load. The game took forever to load. I couldn't even figure out how to do, like, the franchise mode. I'm dead serious. I'm in this game, and
It's
I'm
called
like,
it's
where,
called franchise mode still, so at least there's
or
that.
or my player, or just I think it was just to play a regular season. Like I just wanted to play one season with like
Yeah, they don't have that anymore.
the Bears, and I was like, what how do I do this? Like all I want to do is play a season.
You were
I
just
don't
like
wanna-
the Bears. Hey, how do we play a season? Right?
I did. Wow.
Oh, man, this show's
As
hilarious
a Bears
today.
fan, that hurts.
This is the funniest show we've ever done.
All right, so moving on. I mean, the Bears are completely broken this year. Oh wait.
And
what
speaking
else
of
is
completely broken, oh my God. So we actually are going to be introducing this feature for the rest of 2015, and I am calling it our Broken Games of 2015 Holiday Edition. And that is, we are going to be keeping track and counting all of the games that are completely broken or at least marginally buggy at launch that require a day one patch. Do you have any other criteria that would qualify a game for this list?
it just has to be broken.
Just completely broken.
Just broken.
Yeah, just broken. Just
Or-
generally broken.
Yeah, like day one, if it's not fixed and they need to patch it, it's broken.
Yeah.
Well, like sort of what brought us to this point is last year,
Okay, yeah.
how many broken games were released?
Did we
Really?
did we take the time to count them? I didn't.
Really? Well, I mean, immediately off the top of my head, there's the Master Chief Collection, which it's a shame that it was so broken because the community's dead now. And I'll say right now, when Halo 2 Anniversary worked online, that was fun. Just a total blast. And now, might work, might not. So the other game is Assassin's Creed Unity.
And then
Yes.
Sonic Boom was a third one,
Oh,
and then
Sonic
there
Boom was an absolute mess. That's right.
did Far Cry 4 have problems? I can't remember. It's a Ubisoft game, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I believe Far Cry 4 also had problems.
Yeah. There was an EA game. I can't remember what it is right now. Shoot. I'm blanking, so I'll give you a pass for now, EA.
Yeah, that's all right.
But
so pretty much,
what about like Drive Club and The Crew? They both came out last holiday. They were both broken.
Drive Club was one of the biggest disasters of last year.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Can't
right.
believe I forgot that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Drive Club. So there were several broken games last year, and a few that were complete disasters. And those few would probably be Drive Club and the Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, so we'll
and
do an
Assassin's
official
Creed
count.
Unity.
We'll do an official count in a while, and like we'll compare it to this year when this year is done. But we read an article last week that said like
Yeah, if you were with us last week.
it's going to be the same this year, and it's going to be really bad. And I wouldn't be surprised because it's already started. And I decided to consider this first game the official start of holiday season because it was pretty eagerly anticipated. Right, late September, you can kind of count that as holiday, right? People are starting to
it
think
is
about
already September.
saving for holiday and stuff. So
Well, here's a question: is there Christmas stuff in stores?
yeah.
Yep, there you go.
So it's
the
holiday
holiday
season.
season has begun.
Okay, so so we're gonna kick this off with probably, honestly, I can't see how a game could be worse than this. Like we're gonna start with the worst of all. Like we're saving worst for first, and that is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, a game that I was so eagerly anticipating when they announced it, and it's broken beyond belief. Like I've never seen a game that looks this unfinished.
It is a turd.
Turd is putting it like nicely. It's like it's not even a turd. It's like a turd that you thought you had.
It makes me think of like the old days where you would try to find like the worst game available or like the worst reviewed games online, and I think IGN for the longest time had like a paintball game on computer.
Yeah.
That was horribly reviewed.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what a $60 game
I think that's
does.
the biggest offense of all. Most bad games are not $60 full dollars. And I'm looking at Tony Hawk right now on Metacritic, averaging a 27 out of 100.
That is deplorably bad.
It did not release with a review copy for anybody, so like the reviews are very slow to come in. And there's a couple of really nice quotes on here from the Jimquisition. This is something we'd make fun of if it was on Desura for $10, and that's when it stops becoming a funny game and starts becoming offensive. Because it isn't on Desura for $10. It's a full-priced $60 retail AAA production bearing Tony Hawk's name and proudly published by Activision. It's really atrociously unacceptable once that sinks in. And then I have another one here. I don't know who this one was from, unfortunately. I forgot to write it down. But this says, if you do buy this game for some bizarre reason and choose to do so with a physical disc, make sure you've got an online connection hooked up to your console. Most of the game is housed in a launch day patch, and without it, you just get a tutorial and a shoddy build a skate park mode that's a bit like Little Big Planet for idiots. Which
Can you believe it? That
can we talk about the day one patch for this thing?
I'm so appalled that there is a game that released on retail disc, and that day one patches are now getting to the point where
It's not even the game.
It's not even a game. Yeah, it's
you
a demo.
You can't play it. It's just a demo on a disc, and then if you download the thing, so the disc is a 4.6 install or 4.6 gigabyte like install or whatever, and then when you download the patch, it's like double that size. It's ridiculous.
It's over 7 gigabytes.
How could they do this?
7 something.
This is like offensive to me on like the most basic of levels. Like Activision, you are disgusting. You are now on my S list forever because of this. Like this, this is completely unacceptable.
Part of the problem with this release is the gaming consumers themselves. So take a good long look at yourself in the mirror, gamers. This is your fault.
Well,
because you continue to pre-order games, because you continue to be okay with day one patches. This is what's happening. This is a result of that.
I will say
companies think that they can or companies think like, this game's not going to be ready by release day. Well, that doesn't matter, or ship date, because that doesn't matter because we don't have to be done by ship date. We have to be done by release day.
Well, let me just say this. Like, I will give gamers credit. I have sold 1 copy of this game since it came out, and I have worked every day since it has come out. So I don't think it's catching on. I think people recognize that it's bad. I think it's still going to be a problem with games that are like along the margins, games like Assassin's Creed Unity, which are kind of good, but are just really buggy on day one. But this game is so atrociously bad, I don't think they could have convinced even the dumbest idiots to buy it. So that's good, at least.
What a shame.
Yeah, it's just they ruined a classic gaming franchise. And make no mistake, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 through 4 are some of the most tight, enjoyable experiences that you can have playing an extreme sports game. They're some of the best out there. So, broken games of
Number
2015
1.
Holiday Edition, number 1, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 on Xbox One and PS4. And
congratulations,
and incidentally, the game is coming out on 360 and PS3 before it gets canceled, of course, which it will, because it's not going to sell. So
they'll cancel it.
I'm assuming it's going to get canceled, but it's not out yet. But anyway,
how ironic would it be if it came out on PS3 and 360 and it actually was good?
That would be hilarious.
How interesting would that be?
That would be interesting.
Not going to happen, but you know.
Incidentally, I want to take this moment to just bring this up. It's not really related, but also being published by Activision and specifically Treyarch this next month is Black Ops 3. It is coming out on PS3 and 360, and they like released the news that they took the campaign out of the game, and it's not going to have a campaign on the last gen consoles. Which
I'm curious what it'll cost on the last gen consoles.
$50. $50. Wow. And I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Like, I'm pissed that they're still releasing it for last gen, but I'm also pissed that they're not full assing it. You know what I mean? It's a half-assed attempt.
Moving forward, let's talk about games that are actually good.
Can you tell that I'm fired up this morning? Like, this Tony Hawk's thing just upset me so much. I wanted this game to be good.
Spiegel, we are done with bad.
I can't let it go. We need something good to take my mind off this.
Moving on to good.
Oh, let's do something we teased last week.
Our top 50 games.
Yes, it's here, everybody. Everyone get excited.
So this is a list for 2015 that Spiegel and I both updated. We both have our own separate lists.
Yes.
Of our top 50 games. And each week we will be giving 5 games at a time of our top 50. So you guys can criticize and ridicule our choices.
Yes, rip us endlessly.
For our favorite games.
Incidentally, like we were receiving some comments that we were like someone said, I think it was Nuxie Ben, he's like, you guys sound particularly efforty this week. Like, I'm upset. Because this is effortless, but, sometimes we do put a little effort into the show. And this is one of those times because every top 50 game, I'm going to do my best to find a little bit of like gameplay footage from each one and just put it in the description so that you guys can like take a look at it and see what we're talking about.
Good deal.
Yeah. So sorry about the effort, everybody, but I think you'll enjoy it. So
exactly.
Anyway, I'm also going to advertise the hell out of these shows, these upcoming few shows, because we have a lot of good stuff planned. and I want to get us out there a little bit. So if you see some new commenters, be nice to them.
So Spiegel, would you like to get started with your
yeah, I'll start.
or not your top 5, I should say, number 50 through number 46.
I actually wanted to do some honorable mentions first, if you don't mind. I'm just going to throw these games out there. These are games that I have that I played and I love, but I just, for one reason or another, could not justify putting them on my list. I assume you have some in mind too. You might as well throw yours out there too. But
Yep,
incidentally,
I sure do.
for my top 50 list, just a little caveat before we begin. These are games that I have beaten. All these games I have beaten. So you're not going to find a Super Mario Brothers 3, even though I love the game, have not beaten it, so it's not going on the list. I have to consider myself completing these games before I can put them on the list. So that's
All
why.
right.
But my honorable mentions: Portal for PC, Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy Color, Super Mario 3D World for Wii U, Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc for PS Vita, Chibi Robo for GameCube, Mario Party 2 and 3 for Nintendo 64, Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo, and WarioWare Twisted on Game Boy Advance. So
Good
those are some
choices.
of mine. Yeah, those
Good
just
choices.
did.
And
They,
a few
those
of them
almost made
you
it.
just recently played, huh?
That's correct. Yoshi's Island was for the first time this year. Portal was for the first time this year, and Danganronpa is a game I'm going to talk about during our 52 later.
All right.
So what about you? What are some of your honorable mentions?
Oh man. So I feel like I have to give some honorable mentions to games that I have kicked off of my top 50 list from
Yes.
last year. One of those is Arkham Asylum. It's Batman Arkham Asylum, which was such a beautiful Metroidvania type of game. Played very similar to Metroid Prime, I felt like. And I don't know, like, just the world they built around Batman, the combat system that they built, everything about it, I really enjoyed. The story itself was really enjoyable too. So that's one of my first.
And to be
Then
clear,
there's-
you don't feel the same way about Arkham Knight, right?
I feel like the Arkham games have gotten progressively worse, actually, as they've grown more ambitious.
Interesting.
I feel like they've lost the focus that was there in Arkham Asylum.
Okay.
So like, I'm sort of a sucker for that. I like focused games that, I mean, if you choose to do a little bit more, you can. But if they lose focus, I don't really get into them that much. So it's very rare that I have an open world games that I really enjoy. Next, I'm going to have to throw out a few games that, were kicked off. A few more games. Kirby Canvas Curse, which at one time resided in my top 10. At this point, like, I can't play it for more than an hour.
Gone forever.
Yep, it's unfortunate. Maybe someday down the line, but the novelty has worn off.
I really only had one game that took a tumble like that this year, and we'll talk about that way later.
And it makes me apprehensive about, like, at first, when I first heard about the new Kirby game, the Rainbow
Curse. Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted it, but now I'm not quite sure I want it anymore.
Well, you also need a working gamepad to play it too, so that might help.
Burn.
Just fix the thing, and I can stop burning you week after week. Come on, man.
So, next game is Phoenix Rice 8 or Phoenix Wright Ace.
Yummy.
Phoenix Rice.
Phoenix Rice. I eat attorney.
Phoenix Wright's Ace Attorney, which such a good game. Really colorful cast of characters. Just
Colorful is a good word. That's a good word.
And then Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. And a lot of people knew that, or a lot of people that have known me for a while know that I was a huge Kid Icarus fan before they sort of brought him back. And of Myths and Monsters is where I grew that, like, love. So the first two games, the one first on Nintendo Entertainment System and then of Myths and Monsters, I preferred the one on the Game Boy, which was sort of had an epic final level if you played it right. So those are my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I talked about them way too much, but
Yeah, that's all right. Let's move on to our actual top 5. Let's just go my 50, your 50, and then we'll go back and forth. Is that all right?
perfect.
All right.
Number 50.
Number 50 for me, that would be the original Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Excuse me. Last year, this game for me was number 37. It dropped 13 spots, but that is also partially because I added 13 new games to my list this year. So something had to drop.
Something
A
had
lot
to
of
give.
stuff dropped out. So basically, The Legend of Zelda for me is basically the same. This is an amazing game. Back in 2012, I started a project on the IGN Zelda board, which actually kind of spawned this whole ZBN thing. And that was this project where I was playing through every single Zelda game ever made, and I would write about it. And the original Legend of Zelda, it threw me for quite a loop. It's a very difficult game, but it's also a very entertaining one. It's got puzzles, it's got great combat, it's got great graphics that still hold up today, even though they're 8-bit. They still, the colorful like nostalgia. It really, I don't know. It holds up. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just that it's really well designed. I don't know, but
I think it's just that it's well designed.
you can testify to that, I'm sure.
Yes. And for those who have never played it before, for whatever reason, maybe you're just too young, maybe you just never got around to, owning a Nintendo Entertainment System. But if you ever play it, make sure you play it with a copy of the original manual.
Yeah, you're super hyped about that manual, and I can't blame you because I've seen the thing. And this is now you kids that are growing up today, you guys probably don't even know what manuals are anymore, which is just sad. Even Nintendo doesn't really like have in-depth manuals anymore. Like the one that came with Super Mario Maker is like kind of it's an outlier, and that's a shame because manuals are awesome.
I have to admit, and we're getting on to a little bit of a tangent, but I have Super Mario
This is
Maker, and
Effortless.
even though I can't play because I don't have a gamepad. But when I opened up the box and I saw that manual, it was just like butterflies in my stomach. Couldn't believe that here it was, like this thick manual, full color from Nintendo, and it doesn't really. The other thing is it takes a weird sort of minimalist approach to telling you or like giving you ideas on how to design levels.
It's almost like a stream of consciousness. It looks like when you look at that manual. I'm like I was trying to look through it with purpose, and I was like, what am I looking at?
Yeah,
you can't really read through it and be like, oh, here's an idea. You sort of like while you're playing the game, if you take a glance over at it, you're like, oh, there's an idea.
Yep.
That's probably
just,
about how
it
you
just
should
visualizes
do it.
everything. There's no text to really say, hey, this is what you should do.
So
I
bottom line, get a manual for The Legend of Zelda if you play it. It has a beautiful, colorful map on it. It's got great illustrations. It names all the enemies, and that's sort of what brought the like and the Pole's voice like into the common knowledge. Also, Pole's voice hates loud noises, even though you can't make loud noises in the game.
So moving on, my number 50 game is the original Shenmue for the Sega Dreamcast, and I don't know. It's a very weird game right now. I don't think it's a game that anybody used to today's style of games could ever get into. It just won't work.
Mm-hmm.
You will spend the first 5 hours of the game just walking around a house looking at things. And yeah, so some people might not even make it through 5 hours of just looking at things. So just be like, this is stupid, I'm done. But if you actually get beyond that, you realize just how much detail is in the world, and that is one of the great things about it. Is there are so many games nowadays that they try to immerse you into a world by giving you this giant, huge space to explore. And sometimes bigger is not better. And Shenmue, I feel like it's a good example of that. It's not a very big world, but it has so much detail, so much life like in it that I love it. And the story ends on a cliffhanger. It feels very short, like you didn't even really get into the meat of it because you didn't. It's actually a 6-part story.
It's like Pirates 2.
Yeah, it's a 6-part story, and they ended up condensing the second game down. Like it used to be like 3 chapters down into just 1 chapter for the second game, and the first game is just the very, very, very beginning of the story. So take a look into it if you can. All
right. Number 49 for me, it is okay. Here's an interesting one. This is the first like WTF game I think of our lists, because you can justify Shenmue for sure. I'm not sure anyone.
Wait. WTF is on your list?
No. It's the first WTF type game, in the sense that
I know.
Okay, that was a terrible joke. This is Effortless.
Have you not heard of the game WTF?
No, I haven't.
See, Man, you can't make jokes if you.
Okay. Anyway,
Spiegel, you're killing me.
So I'm sorry. So this is a game that probably no one would ever expect would be on anybody's list, but this is a very interesting game. I believe it came out in like 1995 or 96, right when 3D games are sort of first coming into the spectrum. And this is for PC. It's called 3D Movie Maker. And if you've never heard of this game, go check out the link in the description, because this is a game where you make your own like 3D movies with these like polygon characters, and they all have very distinctive like personalities. And I can't really even explain this game. It's sort of just like you make movies with characters, and you can like record your own voice onto the program, and like you can make them say lines, and they have like all these different actions, like there's run, jump, punch, fall down. Like it's hilarious. It's like Mario Maker but with movies. You can make your own movies. And
this sounds ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Have you ever heard of it?
Like something that would be very fun with a friend.
Now, see, I actually, way back when the ZBN first was starting, I had all these ideas that I pitched to people. I pitched what eventually ended up becoming ZBN Real Life. The original pitch for ZBN Real Life was I review a bag of guacamole flavored chips, and that did not go over well. So it turned into something else. But one of my other pitch ideas was we make movies in 3D Movie Maker, and we put them up on the channel. And that it did not pan out either. I'm still hoping one day we can maybe do something like that, and maybe with enough fan support, like that could be a project in the future. But
Nice
I was
plug.
trying to get Omni interested in it, but he just didn't seem to want to do it. So I don't know. We'll see.
right.
But for now, go check out the footage. It's hilarious. All the characters have like their own like bios in the film book, and they're like, oh, one day I want to make a movie that's like this. So that's like part of the game. You have to like make a movie where they're like an action hero, or they do something stupid, or I don't know. It's pretty awesome and hilarious. So check it out.
All right. So my number 49 is a game called Deus Ex Human Revolution, which came out in 2011, I believe. And this is sort of a weird game. It's a game that I bought almost like very shortly after it came out, but I didn't play it for whatever reason.
It sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Yes.
It just sounds like kind of a dull game.
And I had never played any of the previous ones before it at this time.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't really know what to expect. And so like when I first started playing the game, I got maybe an hour into it, and maybe 2 hours into it, and I just couldn't get into it. So I just let it sit on my computer for a solid like 9 months, and then I finally sat down and started to play it. And after that I just became absolutely hooked. And I realized that the game was sort of it was like a Metal Gear Solid game, just expanded in scope by quite a bit. There was a lot more places to like sneak into and whatnot. There were more ways to do it, and there were a lot of RPG elements added to the game, or RPG elements that you wouldn't see like in Metal Gear Solid games.
Is this one of those games that has the illusion of choice, or do the choices actually matter? I can't remember.
Depending on what you accomplish in the game, the end of the game has 3 different possible endings.
Okay, yeah,
on what
so
you do
there's
in the
some
game.
relevant choice in there, I'm
Yes,
sure.
so there's some relevant choice, and like that, not all the options are open if you don't do certain things within the game. I can't remember exactly what. So yeah, there is a bit of choice to it. And yeah, I have to say that it really surprised me. And one of the big things I liked about it is just how much detail. Again, it's a game that has a lot of detail to it. A lot of the story is told through text. So if you're not a reader,
Learn to
this game
read.
at all. Yeah, either avoid it or learn to read.
Real quick, you mentioned choice, and I feel like I had to bring this up, even though it's only slightly related. They're making a sequel to it, Mankind Divided, Deus Ex
Yes,
Mankind
they are.
Divided, and they actually had this program in place called Augment Your Pre-Order, which was a way to get people to pre-order the game, and they're like, you get to pick the rewards that you get. And apparently
yes, a great disaster.
people were very unhappy with it, and I kind of understand why, because I think pre-order bonuses are scumbaggy in the first place. But they actually just canceled the program, so it's gone. They're not doing it anymore.
It's sort of
And
interesting that
everyone
we're
gets every
talking
pre-order
about
bonus.
these games, and they have their like sequels coming around the corner of like yeah, just something related to them happening to this or happening this year.
Yeah.
And it's not a good thing. Or the good,
So can I move on
whatever it
to
is.
48 here?
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
speed it up just a little bit, I think. But number 48 for me is Pikmin 3 on Wii U, and I love this game. It actually dropped a few spots from last year, but you know, it's still really good. Definitely deserving of a spot on the list. Pikmin 3 is a gorgeous game, probably one of the best looking ones on Wii U. It's very short, but it's very replayable. I've already replayed it a couple of times. The new Pikmin types really add a lot to the gameplay. The bosses are pretty epic. It's
Short
just
but sweet.
all around. It's just a very fun game to play. It uses the gamepad now with the touch controls perfectly. If this game had launched with Wii U and Mario Maker, I think we might be having a different conversation. But unfortunately, Pikmin 3 is now out of print. You can only buy it digitally. So if you don't have it digitally, or if you don't have it physically, sorry, you're out of luck. You're not getting it.
Did not know that. Pretty
Yeah.
glad that I have my copy of it.
Yeah, I am too. That's going to be worth a lot of money in a couple of years.
Oh yeah,
So hang
I
on.
feel like
so hang on to it
about
if you don't.
a lot of Wii U games.
Oh yeah,
because
it's like the
the
Dreamcast.
Wii U. What is going to come out that has backwards compatibility with Wii U games?
NX, right?
Like, what if it doesn't? Will anything have a tablet controller in the future? Like that's
Well,
the thing that I'm seeing.
I mean, this is sort of the pinnacle of the argument. I think NX is
Yeah.
going to be Wii U compatible, and it's going to use the gamepad, so we'll see.
Could be interesting.
But anyway, Pikmin 3, it's very much like the original Pikmin game. It's closer to the original Pikmin than it is to Pikmin 2. Little spoiler, all 3 Pikmin games are on my list. That's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. So,
All right. So my number 48 is No More Heroes 2 for the Wii.
now this is a very interesting choice. What caused you to pick 2 over the first game?
So the first game had the open world, which not a lot of people really liked, and the mini games were pretty bad in the first No More Heroes. I did like a lot of the boss fights in the first. I just felt like No More Heroes 2 really developed on the first one a lot in terms of keeping the action gameplay in place, keeping the crazy enemies, and bringing back quite a few. And the mini games were a blast. All the mini games are like, they're essentially games you've probably played before, just retooled in like a different way. So there's sort of one that's more like a Bomberman style, I guess you could say. There's a mini game that's like playing the old computer game, Windows game Pipes, where you had to like put different pipes that like face in different directions to finish the level, and a few other ones that are like platformers, I guess you could say. And something about it I just loved. It just had this little charm to it, and
I mean, No More Heroes
it
as a
appealed-
series is like
yeah.
totally over the top, right?
yes,
So, I
it's
mean-
over the top kind of action that's just crazy for the sake of being crazy, and I like that. And then it has a little injection of retro gaming into it too, with No More Heroes 2.
I really like the
And-
art style in that game. I think it works really well for Wii. It's kind of a nice cel shaded, almost comic book, right?
Yeah,
Looks
and
a
it
lot
still
like
looks
that.
good today.
Yeah.
So No More Heroes 2.
Number 47. This one I am now like just right now thinking about going back on and changing it, because it's Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga for Game Boy Advance. It's dropped 12 spots since last year, and that's because I replayed it this year, and I'm like, well, it's still good for sure. It's not as good as I remembered it, unfortunately. And I played Partners in Time immediately after this one, and I'm starting to think I liked Partners in Time better.
Oh wow.
So stay tuned. Next year we might have a change of the guard here because I plan on replaying them again just to solidify that opinion at some point. But as of now, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga is still a great Mario RPG, very entertaining, hilarious dialogue, great just a great story. The pacing is really, really good. When you think it's winding down is when it picks back up again. So when you think a game would be over is when it starts to ratchet back up the intensity. So that's really exciting. About 20 hours of gameplay, really, really creative. I love everything about it. It's a great game.
So I didn't beat it because it was just one of those games where the world didn't appeal to me, but the combat was pretty involving.
Yeah, it's one of those RPGs where it's like timing. But you don't just like sit there and watch the attacks happen. It's like an action RPG mixed in with a turn-based. You actually have to do the action, which is fun. And there's a lot of different options. You can use items. You can use bro attacks, which are
I was so bad at bro attacks.
I was too. They're not easy, but they are fun to pull off. So Mario and Luigi, the original, and Chris loves that game. He also loves No More Heroes. So good episode for Chris here.
Good choices, Chris. So my number 47 is Mario Kart Double Dash.
Yeah, I love
for
this
the
game.
GameCube, and this is actually going to be the only Mario Kart on my list. Double Dash is easily my favorite of the series, and that is because of this little thing that people hate, and it is called snaking. What? Snaking? So before snaking became popular in Mario Kart DS and really just way too easy to pull off, it existed in Double Dash. And the reason I liked it in Double Dash is it was harder to pull off. It just added so much more to time trialing in the game. So, and because the controls are analog rather than just digital like Mario Kart DS, I feel like the game has a lot more depth for skill to really prevail. And I actually recently went back to it last year and tried to do some of the things that I could do when I very briefly held world records, and I could not do it at all. Like, I completely lost all of my ability and skill in the game.
Let me interrupt you really quick. You briefly held world records?
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
It was back when there was MarioKart64.com.
Wow.
So, yes.
That's
and
crazy.
You had to go old school and use a VHS.
I previously here's an interesting fact about me. I previously held the world record for Paint It Black on Guitar Hero 3 on easy.
All right.
So I don't know if that's still standing or not, but that's a real thing.
Yeah, one thing you might not know about me is I've previously held records in, I believe, like that and Bionic Commando Rearmed and Mirror's Edge.
Dang, you totally taught me there. I thought I was impressive by beating Metroid Prime in 6 hours and 47 minutes. Guess not. Although the speedruns of that game are just absurd.
Yeah,
we'll get to that later.
Speedrunning is its own thing.
So I love Double Dash, back to Double Dash, because I love the fact that it's two characters. I love the fact that you can mix and match the item types, because each character has a special item, and some are way better than others. Like, if you're sucky, you want to pick Baby Mario and Baby Luigi because they're going to get the chain chomp all the time. But if you're constantly in first place, you're going to want like Koopa to arm yourself with lots of shells. You're going to want Bowser Jr. to get that big shell, or Bowser. Waluigi and Wario, you never want to play as because they have the bombs, and those are awful. Same with Peach and Daisy with their stupid hearts that do nothing. So yeah, it's just it's a very unique game. There's no other Mario Kart like it, obviously. I was actually disappointed when Mario Kart Wii came out and it didn't have two. I was like, why doesn't it have two like Double Dash? That should just be a thing, and it's not. And I don't know if it's ever going to come back. I think it would be awesome if it did, but at the same time, I also like that Double Dash is completely unique.
Yeah, I doubt it will ever be an idea revisited. And it's weird that, like, when it came out, a lot of fans just ripped into it.
Oh, they hated it. I never understood why.
Mario Kart 64 is so much better because two characters, that's just such a stupid gimmick and blah, blah, blah. And I don't understand the complaints because the controls are so much tighter than they were in Mario Kart 64. And the depth, again, I feel like the depth of the speedrunning was much greater.
Those people are so wrong. People who like Mario Kart 64 better than like many Mario Kart games. You are so wrong. That game is not that good. You are overrating it big time because you played it with your buddies in college or whatever.
Yep. That's sort of what it is. It's well, this is what I played and this is what I remembered kind of
exactly
experience.
Yeah.
So, which you and I are both really good at too.
Yeah. Number 46. This is my first game that moved up. This is a game I actually played a couple nights ago, and I decided to throw it up my list. I threw up all over my list, and I put Mario Strikers Charged on Wii. I don't know if
Oh
you,
my gosh, what a fantastic game.
dude, it's so underrated. Nobody ever
What
talks
a
about this game.
fantastic game.
Are you regretting that it's not in your top 50 right now? Because, right? It's not, right? Or is it?
It is. It's not, and that's mostly because of the online experience that the game had to offer.
So I actually really enjoyed the online experience in this game. I felt like
I loved it.
This was the first Nintendo online game, I believe. I think it was the first one. Pokemon Battle Revolution might have been the first. But at any rate, so this game came out at a time when the Wii was like the initial hype
infancy.
had sort of like winded down a little bit. It was late 2007. There was just like games that we knew about. And this game came out, and it was amazing. Like, the controls were so tight. You know, it felt good to hit people with the Wii remote. Like, you'd shake, like, you know, the waggle that everyone complains about. It actually works in this game because you shake it and you hit people, and the force of the hit
and
is
soccer
so
is sort
hard.
of like a rage-inducing type of game that sometimes it was just like appropriate that you're just shaking the Wii remote out of
You're just
frustration.
slamming people into like electric walls, and it's like this is one of the most violent sports games I think ever. It's right up there with like Blitz the League. Like, if it had blood, it would be even better. But it is Mario, so. But anyway, like, there's bombs flying around, like everything's exploding all the time. It feels like, and it's super exciting, and
it's a very high octane.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to
game.
describe it. And I love playing it with friends. So Piddle, when I come visit you or whatever, we're gonna do this.
All right.
So book it.
So
I'm bringing that one.
I'm gonna warn you right now. That is a game that I think I was on like either the daily or the weekly top list.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, that'll
But
be really fun then.
Just once, because it was like I think it was one day, and it was one day where I just like had the entire day open to me. So all I did was play Mario Strikers Charged so that I could get to the top of the daily list.
Man, I freaking love that game. It's so good.
And
I want to play it now.
I did like how the game constantly evolved online, and how at the very beginning everybody was like, the Hammer Brothers are so cheap, blah blah blah, and it's like, just get better, bro.
You know who's cheap? Birdo. That's cheap. Birdo's super cheap.
I don't even remember what Birdo does.
Birdo like shoots this giant egg that just annihilates everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you're anywhere in its
yeah,
path,
but you have
that's
to
a goal.
charge up your shot.
Yeah, but if you're anywhere in that path, that's a goal, like, automatically.
Yeah.
Like, because it knocks everything to the side too, so like you can't come back on the ball and clear it. Anyway, so Mario Strikers Charged, number 46, and now that I'm talking about it, I want to move it up even more. But I think it's good. I think it's a good spot. I don't think it'll ever leave my list, just because it's
Great choice.
This, and there's two other sports games that make my list that are insanely fun to play with friends, and that'll be the next episode that I talk about those.
So my number 46 is Minecraft.
All right.
So whatever platform you play it on, PC, Xbox,
Just to be
Vita.
clear, what platform did you play it on?
I played it on PC. I was actually one of the very, very early adopters of Minecraft.
You're such an elitist. I'm an early adopter.
I know.
I have world records. I can't stand doing this show with you anymore. It's terrible.
I'm so great at it. No,
Yeah.
no, I'm not. Trust me, my records have been blown away so badly by the following generations of speedrunners. But Minecraft, yeah, I got really early, so I sort of have seen it go through all of most of its iterations. I believe I got it during the alpha.
It's hard to believe that this is a game that came out in 2009, and it's just huge now. Like,
It's
every kid
massive
in the
now.
frickin' world, it seems like, is obsessed with it.
A ton of kids play Minecraft now, which is, I feel like, really good. I think it's a great thing that kids are playing Minecraft. Just like I think it's a great thing when kids play with Legos. Actually, and this is sort of, it's a little bit of a tangent, but have you seen the latest Minecraft project that somebody is working on?
Is it the Pokemon Red thing?
Yes, Pokemon
Now,
Red.
This is because I've never played Minecraft myself, but I don't even understand like what that means. Like, how does that even work? I don't get it. Like,
it is, like I like can't even fathom it. It's so ridiculous that somebody has a somewhat working version of Pokemon Red or Blue in Minecraft. It's ridiculous. Like, they don't have any battles or anything going on like that yet. I don't even know if they're ever going to be able to get to that point. If they are, I'm going to be blown away. But you can create circuits and, yeah, pretty much like a computer in Minecraft. So that's what some people are doing.
That's so weird to me. Like I don't even understand how that's possible, but it's impressive. And so you're just saying the creative aspects of Minecraft like basically justifies its position on your list, right?
There's the phrase like eventually you'll be able to play Minecraft inside of Minecraft.
I'm surprised it's not there already.
So, it might. But yeah, Minecraft, it's just the freedom it gives you is unparalleled because you can build out anything you want. And at the same time, it has a world that you can explore. And the first time you like find a cave or whatever and you go down into it and you just see this, it's weird. Like there's this beauty to all of the locations that you will visit in Minecraft. And it's a different experience every time that you play. So whether you're playing the game to create or whether you're playing it to explore, it has something for a lot of people, I feel like.
My boss at work, when I first bought I was like considering buying it, and I'm like, I'm never going to get into this. Like, why should I buy this? Even though everyone else has it and everything. So I kind of wanted to jump on the bandwagon a little bit. She's like, it's a survival horror game. And I was like, really? So that sold me on it. You kind of have to you have to build up your supplies.
Oh, wait, you have it? What?
Yeah, I have it.
Have you played it?
No.
Oh, what do you have it on?
360.
All right.
So.
Well, you'll have to play it sometime. I see. Like again, it is what you make of it. But yeah, it is a bit of a survival game. Eventually, not sort of at the beginning. Like you do sort of have to survive, but if you die, it's not that big of a deal. It's more later in the game. Like,
well, it's not don't starve, right? It's its own type of thing.
It's like eventually you'll hit a point where you're like 10 hours into the game and you die and you lose almost everything that you built up and you'll just be like, no, and you don't want to play anymore, but you'll go back eventually and you'll learn from your mistakes.
That's Don't Starve. That sounds like Don't Starve to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is our top 50 for this week. We've went through 50 through 46. Join us again next week for 45 through 41, right?
Yep.
So mine
we
was
spent a long time on that.
Yeah, I know we did, but that's what it is from this point forward. So if you hated it, well, I'm sorry, I guess. We'll try to make it more interesting, I guess, next time if you hated it. Hey, and we want to know your top 50s too, if you have any. If you have a top 50, if you've played 50 games, you jerks.
Again, criticize and ridicule us for our top 40 or 50 through 46.
And so here's your ammunition for that. My top 50 through 46 was The Legend of Zelda, 3D Movie Maker, Pikmin 3, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, and Mario Strikers Charged. And what was yours?
Shenmue, Deus Ex Human Revolution, No More Heroes 2, Mario Kart Double Dash, and Minecraft.
All right. So we have a little more to talk about.
Moving on, we have our 52 out of 52. And I think we'll be done after that for today's episode.
Yeah, this is quite a. It doesn't feel like a long episode, but I feel like listening it might be kind of a long episode. But so
we are talking about a lot of games today.
This is a super gamey episode. I'll go ahead and go first. I beat 2 games this week, and you beat the 1, right?
Yep, congratulations.
So I'm now officially caught up. This is week 25 that we were recording this. So I have beaten 25 games, and my cats are attacking each other again. That's cool. Stop it. I'm recording a show. I beat 2 games. I'm going to go ahead and start with the one that was a replay, and it was Metroid Prime. And I mentioned this earlier. I actually set a new personal record, which is I 100% of the game in 6 hours and 47 minutes.
That's actually very impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if I can ever beat that, honestly. I was just a madman. I sat here for like 5 hours straight, and I just blasted through the game. I got to the late part of Phase on Mines, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break, savor this, and I'm just going to finish it tomorrow, which is exactly what I did. I played the Wii version on Metroid Prime Trilogy, and it's so good. It's unbelievable how good Metroid Prime is. It's a freaking masterpiece. And
I just want to insert the GIF of the so good GIF right now.
Yeah, exactly.
From Spider-Man 3.
So if you haven't played Metroid Prime, number 1, what's wrong with you? And number 2, go play it. Like, I don't care what you're doing, just drop everything. Like, Piddle and I don't agree on everything. One of the things we do agree on is that Metroid Prime is a masterpiece in video game history. So
absolute masterpiece.
Yep.
And
I don't even want to explain it. Just go experience it for yourself. Watch a video and then just go play it.
I sort of want to throw out my story from Metroid Prime.
Yeah, go ahead. We got time.
Right now, but did you know that first time I played Metroid Prime, I could not get into it?
Yeah, I was reading
Like-
your top 50 games from last
Yeah.
year, and it was like what you put it down. You're like, I don't like this.
Yeah, I literally I got it on release day, and I played it, and I played it for like 2 hours, and I was like, I don't like this, and I think I was expecting something more actiony, and that sort of screwed me up because that's sort of what the press was like. Oh, Halo Killer, it's first person adventure, blah blah blah, and I mean that's really what it was. It was an adventure, but you had to be prepared to play it more like a Zelda game. And yeah, so when I eventually came back to it, I think it was like 2006 when I finally started to play it.
That's the year when I played it for the first time too.
Or it might have been 2005, but I think it was 2006.
It was a good year for Metroid Prime.
And I actually sat down and started playing it, and was like, "Whoa, this is way too good. Why did I not play this before?"
Yeah. Oh man, so enjoyable.
Felt a little silly, but
yeah.
great
All right,
game.
but go ahead and do your game. This is another old game too, right?
Yes. So I'm still sort of working through Rare Replay, and this last week I finally finished Banjo Kazooie.
Yeah, I love that game. Don't you just love that game?
No, I don't.
What? No, we already
So-
talked. That was staged. We already know. We
Yeah.
already talked about this.
Pretty clear. We've talked a little bit about Banjo Kazooie, but for me, it just couldn't get into it. I just didn't like it, and I shouldn't say that. I just didn't love it.
I think with
It wa-
Banjo Kazooie. Oh, real quick.
It was enjoyable enough where I almost completely beat the game. I collected in most levels all 10 of the jiggies. In most levels, I collected all 100 musical notes, and I got through the board game at the end,
You know, the
which
funny
is
thing-
really weird. It was sort of a weird direction to go in, and it was mildly frustrating, but like sort of fun at the same time.
I was wondering what you were going to think of the board game. I'm surprised you didn't bother doing the final boss. I think you would have liked the final boss because you like those big final boss fights with like a lot of different elements. I'd still recommend you go and like actually truly finish it. But
I might go back and truly finish it sometime, but the issue was I got through the board game. I didn't actually realize there was a board game or a part after that.
yeah,
And so like after I beat the board game, I like looked at what I needed to do in order to fight the final boss, and I needed to collect like 8 more jiggies and like 30 more musical notes. And I was just at this point where I was like, you know, I'm done with this game. Like I just need a break from it because it was just too much. It was just too much of a grind for me to play through the game.
and I can
eventually.
understand that. I think I tend to look at Banjo Kazooie with like a little bit of rose-colored, or in this case, nostalgia-colored glasses, like because I did play it, you know, pretty recently after it like came out for the first. I think I played it in like 2000 or something. So, I mean, I definitely have a soft spot for it in that sense. But also, I feel like it's a really well-designed game with all the different moves you can learn, all the like really colorful, hilarious characters that are in the game. So I really love it for that reason.
I will say, I do like the various moves that the game has, and I like how it's very familiar to Mario 64 in a lot of ways, but it also gives you more camera control. I feel like.
Oh yeah, the camera's actually really well done in that game.
Yeah, for the most part, there are moments where it's sort of
Well, it's a
gets
3D
wonky on you.
platformer, right? So
Yeah.
you know.
So like there are moments where like if you're like running like towards the camera, or like I'm trying to swivel the camera behind Banjo and there's just like not enough space. So rather than being able to get directly behind him, it like gets wonky and like suddenly shifts off, and then I'll like fall off a ledge, and then I get frustrated from the camera.
Right.
But those times weren't that frequent. My main issue with the game is just the controls didn't feel as tight as they did in Super Mario 64, which is Super Mario 64's controls aren't very tight. Super Mario's controls have been vastly improved on in the future. It was more focused on collecting than platforming. There are platforming moments in Banjo Kazooie that I really enjoyed. Like we were talking about the rusty
Rusty Bucket Bay.
Rusty Bucket
the
Bay.
engine room, which everyone hates, rightfully so.
I actually liked the engine room. And like how it was more platforming.
It was definitely
I-
like probably the biggest platforming moment in that game.
But I didn't like how if I failed, I had to go all the way back to the beginning of the level. And
I don't know how, by the way, I don't know how you felt about Click Clock Wood because you didn't finish it, right? But did you get to the part where you climbed up the whole tree? Because there's some good platforming in that.
I did not.
Okay,
so
that's
Wood
an
is like
enjoyable
the last level for me.
Yeah,
to
there's
do.
some hardcore platforming in Click Clock Wood,
And
which is one of my favorite levels in video game history.
I started to play it, and I just realized like Click Clock Wood is just out of all the levels in Banjo Kazooie, it definitely has the most depth to it.
That's quite a time investment, yeah, to get involved in
And
Click Clock Wood.
I was at that point where I was not in the mood to do or like deal with that.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I was in the right mindset, I would really like Click Clock Wood. I just wasn't. So I skipped it over and pretty much just did the game show instead. The only other issue with the game is there are a lot of areas where you have a narrow ledge to walk along, but right next to that narrow ledge is a surface that Banjo can't walk up, but Kazooie can. So like you'll accidentally start going up that surface as Banjo, and then you'll just slide down and completely slide off of the platform.
Oh yeah.
And so the game is pretty charming, like I'll admit that, and it has a lot of good things in it. It's just I've played classic platformers like more recently, like way beyond their heyday. For example, Crash Bandicoot 3, I only recently played in like
Right.
2008 for the first time ever. And then also like Spyro the Dragon. And I would honestly say like I prefer Spyro the Dragon's platforming because it feels a lot tighter than Banjo Kazooie's platforming. So take that how you will.
Yeah,
but
so I understand your criticisms of the game. For me, that's just not. It's not as big of an issue
not
for me, I
applicable
think.
because because you grew up on it.
And I also enjoyed it differently too. Like I didn't look at it like, oh, this needs to be Super Mario 64, or I'm not gonna like it.
Speaking of which, have you played the Spyro games?
No, I own them. I'm gonna do it later.
Yeah. So I suggest like trying the Spyro games and coming back and telling me how you think they compare to Banjo.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're very much in the vein of like collect everything in order to continue throughout the game.
Yeah.
But
No, I'm excited for that because I like the collectathon. I like Donkey Kong 64. You know, I like Banjo Kazooie. I like Banjo Tooie. So, yeah. Anyway.
So for my score for Banjo Kazooie, I'm gonna be I don't want to be too harsh on it because it is a pretty good game. It's just not very clean, I feel like. And for that reason, I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
Oh, it's so low that hurts me to a deep level. Being someone who would give it a 5 out of 5, that hurts me, but that's all right. Incidentally, I didn't give Metroid Prime a score. I give it a 5 out of 5. So,
All right.
so yeah, I just remembered that. So to wrap up the show,
Of course, it's a 5 out of 5. Like that's even a question.
yeah, it's like the most obvious 5 out of 5 in video game history. You fools! Like you can't not like that game, Dan.
So you had another game.
I have one more game, and I talked about it briefly last week, so I don't really need to go a whole lot into it this week. But I will say this. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc ends very well. The ending is really, really good. It's tight. It has a really good story. It makes me want to play the second one, which is the most important thing in a game that is in a line of sequels. So Trigger Happy Havoc makes me want to play the next one, which is Goodbye Despair. Piddle, you own that one.
I do.
Can you tell me if it's good or not?
From what I have played, it is pretty good.
There you go. Then I want to play it. So Trigger Happy Havoc, well, I talked about it. It's a bunch of like high school students. They're forced into a killing game with each other, and then the ones that survive, I won't spoil anything. You get to see what happens at the end, or actually, you don't get to see what happens at the end. The game ends on a major cliffhanger. So it's just really like the story is good enough to the point where I want to keep learning more. And I don't even know if these characters are going to be in the second game because it doesn't look like it. But I am interested to see what happened. I can't really say anything because I don't want to spoil it. But I am interested to see what happened, and I will leave it at that. Trigger Happy Havoc, super heavy story. So if you're not into visual novels, you're gonna hate the game. But
I don't think it's really the story. Like the gameplay comes down to the
class trials and the. So one thing
Yeah.
I will say about that is that it did at times feel a little bit bogged down. It felt like Phoenix Wright, where I wasn't exactly sure when I was supposed to use what evidence, and it was kind of the system. The punishment system was good because like it didn't make you start the whole trial over. You just started that one section over. So I could keep trying things, and while it was frustrating to like not be able to figure out what I was supposed to do, at least I could keep trying, and it wasn't like no, now you have to start all over, because those trials were very long.
You're actually reminding me of the things that I don't like about the second one.
The second game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm assuming those problems are still there, but you know, what can you do? It's one of those like solve a mystery games, so like there's going to be a little bit of trial and error.
There's
no pun
moments where
intended.
it's like you have to attack or like do things really quickly and like swipe on the screen.
Yeah,
really
it's not
quickly.
really meant
And-
to be a first-person shooter, is it?
And I'm just like I'm trying. Let me process. It's the game's pretty much like demanding you process really quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't really like that.
And it's understandable why they want you to process stuff really quickly, because like that's kind of the nature of it. It's like they're all accusing each other and doing all this stuff, but when it demands that you're precise with your button presses, the game essentially turns into a first-person shooter during the class trials. With like additional elements that you have to do, and it's like it becomes really difficult, especially on the Vita, with the thumbsticks not being particularly accurate. I don't even understand why Sony wanted to turn this into like a console, because I don't want to play a first-person shooter on this thing. It's just, it doesn't feel precise enough. But anyway, that's really my biggest complaint with Trigger Happy Havoc, is just that the controls are not always exactly what I want them to be, and the fact that the cases can be kind of obscure. But the style is unmatched. It's ridiculously over the top, and I love it for that.
All right.
I mean, as it should be. Everyone in the game is the ultimate at whatever they do, so it only makes sense that this is the ultimate over the top game.
So what would you give?
I would give
Trigger
it.
Happy Havoc?
I would give it a 4 out of 5, and like I said, it barely missed my top 50 list, and that's a very harsh 4. I feel like too, because it could be a 4.5. It's almost as good as 999, but the story isn't quite as good. The story is very good, but it's not quite as good, which is what made 999 a 4.5 out of 5 for me earlier this year.
All
So,
right.
if you have a Vita, Trigger Happy Havoc is a must-own game, just because there's not a lot of them on Vita. But at the same time, it's also a very enjoyable experience. And like I said, as 4 out of 5s go, I'd recommend it
It's
more than
pretty good.
probably any other 4 out of 5 I've given out this year. So
All right. So I think
that's the
we'll
show,
wrap
everybody.
up there. And plenty of we talked about a lot of games, I feel like.
this is like, we did an episode a while back that was like the all games episode. This is like the even more games episode.
Yes. This is a lot of games that we just talked about.
Yeah.
But
I don't think we
for the
veered
most
off
part,
topic.
all
like,
good games.
I don't think
except
we-
for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which avoided at all costs.
Yeah, don't buy that. Broken game number 1. And we'll have more next week, I'm sure, because what's coming out this week? We have Rock Band 4 is coming out on the 6th. I'm very interested to see reviews
Yeah.
on that one.
And is Guitar Hero Live coming out as well?
No, that's a couple weeks from now. That's like the 20th.
right.
The Uncharted collection comes out on the 9th, I think. And then Chibi Robo, the new one for 3DS, also comes out on the 9th. So you got some stuff to play if you've got all these consoles.
Good news.
Yeah. It's holiday season, man. The games are upon us. Here we go. It only gets more fun from here.
I am not ready. Not ready at all. I haven't even fixed my Wii U gamepad yet.
Yeah, get on it, man. Well, don't worry. There's no Wii U games this holiday.
All right.
Do you want to play an Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival? Because I don't.
Absolutely not. Don't even know.
I'm offended by the existence of that game.
All right. So if you like this show, like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends as well, please.
Definitely share with your friends this week, because this is what the show's going to be for like the next 3 months. So you better enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think that's it. We'll see you next week, hopefully. For Spiegel, I'm Piddle, and this is Effortless.
Got me something true.